everybody, and welcome to Generally Speaking, the podcast that bridges the worlds of pop culture and personal development. I'm your host, Jennifer Snook. I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope everything has been going well in your world. You guys, just got back from BravoCon. I am still catching up on sleep, and I just have to tell you, what a wild weekend it was. A wild weekend, you guys. And I didn't even go to any sanctioned BravoCon events, and it was still a wild weekend. There is so much to tell you guys, including, oh God, you guys, I have a story. It's just, the whole thing is unbelievable. Anyway, but we are diving into all of that juicy stuff at the end, because before we get into BravoCon, we have to get through part 2 of that OC reunion, because my God, it was juicy too. But you guys, like I said, I have a story to tell. But in the meantime, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. And listen, I have to apologize because I know that I told you guys to keep checking back that I was going to be posting. I told you guys to check it out on TikTok because that's where I was going to be. And that was the plan, you guys. I was going to go and interview a bunch of people and get a bunch of reactions to a bunch of different topics. But in the end, I just didn't want to do it. It just didn't feel right. I just really felt like I wanted to be there and take it all in and listen to the conversations that were happening organically next to me without me driving them. And my God, I have to tell you, I heard a lot, you guys. It was bananas. And you talk about fandom. I was standing in line at points next to people who were ranting on in a way that was honestly a little kind of crazy. To the point where I'm thinking that I hope some of them have security, because these people sound very in their feelings, very connected to the players. It was a lot. But to be honest, I just didn't feel up to being on. You know what I mean? This was my first BravoCon, and I just kind of wanted to feel it out first. And boy, did I ever, you guys. I'm telling you, I have a BravoCon story that you are never going to believe. A story that culminated, you guys, in the most insane situation involving Melissa, Joe, Teresa, Louie, Gia, and me. And it was wild, you guys. Wild, wild, wild. And I promise you I'm going to talk about it. But we have to get through part 2 of that OC reunion first. So you guys, the reunion picks up and we're talking about the back and forth between Tamra and Jenn. Andy says, I think this is just all so strange because Tamra's the one that actually submitted your name years ago. So I'm not sure what's happened with the two of you. And Tamra says, Andy, I think it's just a chain of events. Tamra goes on to say what I heard, and then she goes through this laundry list. She says, you bought the house on the same street as me. Jenn says, it wasn't on your street, and you didn't even live there at the time. Tamra says, you went to the same doctor as me. She goes, which doctor? You went to the same hair salon. You wore my extensions. She goes, I never wore your extensions. I think we all know that that was a joke. Tamra says, you came to my gym. You did the competition. And Jenn says, Tamra, you asked me to do the competition and then you backed out. And honestly, to me, you were just a normal girl who had a gym that was down the street from my yoga studio, and I wanted to work out. Plus, I thought your husband was a great guy. Then the fact that Tamra brought out that fatty photo comes up, and Jenn says, listen, at this point, I'm not even really upset about it anymore. She says, that's where I was in my life at that point. I was taking care of my kids. I wasn't focused on myself. And honestly, she's completely right. And I was so glad to hear her say that. And even though she didn't say that then when it happened, at least she's saying it now. Andy asked Jenn if she has a wedding date set, and she says no. And then before anyone can even hammer down on her for saying no, Emily actually stands up for her and says, look, I think that what she's doing by not rushing is actually the right thing for her and her kids. Jenn says, well, thank you, Emily. And truthfully, I'm trying to do things differently. She says, and at this point, God forbid something were to happen to Ryan, I'm at the point where I can take care of myself and my kids. She says, I'm actually the one that's been floating my family. She goes on to say that her and Ryan recently sat down with Will and that he apologized and took accountability for all of his misgivings and missteps. And that not only did he apologize for all of that, but that he went on to say thank you to Ryan for stepping in and really, showing up for his kids when he couldn't. Jenn says that at this point, her and Will are on much better terms, and that's all she really cares about. Then Andy questions the fact that Gina said that Jenn and Shannon have a fake friendship. And Gina goes on to explain that, it just felt weird because Jenn would act one way around me, but then act differently when Shannon came into the picture. And Jenn says she's talking about the bridal shower. And in a way, she's right, because I did say that I didn't want anything traditionally bridal. She says, but the truth is, the shower was already planned when I found out about it, and I'm not going to very well tell my friend to undo everything she did. And then she turns to Shannon and says, and especially after I saw everything that you spent. And then Shannon really puts on the show and starts patting her head. And I was just so embarrassed. I was mortified when that came out. Oh, I never want anyone to see how much I spent. Oh, awful. But come on now, Shannon. We all know that you secretly loved it. Then Andy brings up the fact that Gina was mocking Heather's comedy career. And Gina says, listen, that was my error. And then she says, and Heather, if it helps, I told you I really do love those TikToks you do with Terry. And Heather says, look, the truth is, when I share personal stuff or ambitions and it's met with that reaction, it makes me not want to open up. And she says, and Gina, when you told me that you wanted to be a comedy writer, I was instantly supportive. But before Gina can even respond to what Heather's saying, the conversation gets interrupted because Miss Shannon Beador is getting loud about the fact that she really needs a bathroom break. Then they get into Emily's time with the stripper, which brought up Tamra's bachelorette party and the strippers that Gretchen hired. Heather goes, oh yeah, remember the ones with the cock rings? And then Tamra goes, what's the purpose of a cock ring? And Andy says, because it makes your dick look bigger. And I need to know, is that right? Because I did not know that. I did not think that. I mean, honestly, if I'm going to be completely honest, I've never known exactly what a cock ring is for, but I don't think it's to make it look bigger, right? Is that right, you guys? If you guys agree with Andy, please let me know if Andy is right, or you can just let me know what it's for. Is it to make it look bigger? Honestly, I need to know this. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me, but please do tell. Then Andy announces that it's time for lunch, and as the girls are all breaking away and going to their respective trailers, Matt Janella shows up. And as soon as Katie sees him, she breaks down in tears. He asks her what's wrong, and she says it's Jenn. She's making all kinds of accusations about me. And he says, she's making accusations about you? She's the one that's engaged to a guy that made a deal with the feds. And then they cut to Shannon walking into Jenn's trailer, where Shannon is talking mad shit about Katie, about Tamra, and just about everyone. Then lunch is over, and the naked wasted controversy begins again. Right out of the gate, Katie, Jenn, and Gretchen all debated a social media post that was deemed offensive. Gretchen and Jenn eventually ended up apologizing to Katie for it. Then the big Mastro's dinner comes up. What Jenn heard, what Gretchen said. Did Gretchen or did she not go to the hospital? Gretchen's trying to cover her tracks. Half of the women are saying, oh, come on, she just misspoke. Then Andy announces that a bunch of the guys got all wrapped up in these naked wasted rumors and that they were all invited to show up tonight to talk about it. But he goes on to say that Slade and Ryan both declined his offer, but that Matt Janella actually made it and he is here to join the girls. So Matt joins the girls on stage. Andy starts by saying, obviously there was a big discrepancy between Matt's version and Slade's version of that phone call. Andy says, Matt, your version of events is that you had a 43-minute phone call with Slade where he was pressuring you to have Katie, quote, hold the line regarding the naked wasted story. Andy looks at Matt and says, which line exactly was he wanting you to hold? And Matt says, well, if you go back to Mastro's, at that point, I knew absolutely nothing about Naked Wasted. I'd never even heard of such thing. But then I began listening to them tell this story that illustrated to us from them just how dangerous Tamra could be and what exactly she was capable of. And they went into great detail about this night that led to this drugging and the hospitalization. He says, but in terms of holding the line, he says, these guys were in New Orleans and I get this text from Slade that says 911. Hey, bro, 911. And Gretchen goes, it said, hey, bro, I kind of have a 911. If you could give me a call. And Matt goes, I know what it said, Gretchen, but thank you for the detail. Andy goes, well, Matt is ready. And Matt says, well, listen, I'm being accused of lying here. And I'm here to talk to those guys about it, and they didn't even show up. And then Jenn instantly pipes up and tries to explain away why Ryan isn't there, but Matt just steps right on her words. I mean, he completely shuts her explanation right down, and she goes, rude. And Matt says, rude? Well, I think this whole thing is rude. I think being called a liar when you're not is rude. Then Jenn very defensively goes, Matt, you probably don't want me to bring up conversations that you had that night at dinner. And Gretchen goes, oh, well, I'll do it. I'll bring it up. That was the night that you said, oh, as soon as I met Eddie, I knew he was gay. And honestly, I just have to tell you, the reaction of Jenn and Gretchen is exactly what's making me believe Katie even more. Well, I mean, number one, there's the fact that Matt showed up and the other two boneheads didn't. I mean, that alone is all the evidence that you need. Because if Slade Smiley really knew in his heart that he was telling the truth, there is nothing that would stop him from standing on that stage and screaming it from the rooftops. Nothing. Nothing at all. And honestly, the same goes for Ryan. They just didn't want to take the chance of screwing up their story. And they're at least smart enough to know that the more you talk, the more you screw yourself up. But secondly, on a different level, if you really listen to the words that they're choosing to use, Jenn and Gretchen, they're trying to pull like this justification/deflection tactic. Jenn says, you probably don't want me to bring up what you said. You said? I mean, the fact that she's saying what you said implies that she said something. Well, if I said something, it's like this tit for tat. It's like they both said shitty things under this cloak of protection. But now that Katie and Matt have come out and said what they said that night, now it's like, well, you said this too. And then Andy says, back to your phone call with Slade. And Matt says, so Slade tells me that Katie just talked to Kiki Monique and that in doing so, she sealed her own fate because of the fact that this was never supposed to come out. And Gretchen pipes up and says, no, what he said was, did Katie talk to Kiki Monique? And Matt says, were you there, Gretchen? Were you listening in on her phone call? And she says, no, but that's what he told me. And I know that you're nothing but a big liar pants. Then Matt turns back to Andy and says, so at this point, I'm like, shit, I need to get a hold of Katie, of course, because apparently none of this was supposed to come out. And Gretchen goes in again and says, that's not what he said. And Matt says, Gretchen, there's phone calls and text messages to prove it. Gretchen says, you said on the show that Slade called you like 20 times, but we pulled out our phone records. Matt says, I have the same phone records and I'll show them to you. He goes on and says, so I called Katie and I said, the shit has hit the fan. Did you say this to Kiki Monique? And she said, no. And I said, well, it got out and now you're going to need to stick by her and hold the line and just go with the fact that it was never said. Then Andy turns to Gretchen and says, okay, well, what's Slade's side of the story? And she says, well, Slade said that he said to Matt, now not only are we hearing that you guys are talking to the blogs, but now we hear that you guys are talking to the blogs about us. And that they said, oh, no, that's not true. We would never do that. That's absolutely not true. And then Slade, because he's a good man, said, well, because you're my friend, I'm going to believe you. Then Sheena Shea gets inserted into the conversation because apparently she is super good friends with Gretchen and maybe she was the one that actually spilled the story to Kiki Monique. And Andy says, so you're telling me that Sheena was somehow plotting to get Gretchen back on the show? And Katie says, well, that's the rumor that I heard. Then Andy says, just so you all know, if this drugging thing had happened 15 years ago, we all would have been dealing with it. And Gretchen goes, and I would have been calling the cops. And Tamra goes, that's right, because it didn't really happen. It never happened. You're just lying about it to make me look bad. And then Matt says, so where is Slade? And Andy says, yeah, it's a really good question because it's not like Slade passes up the opportunity to get his face in front of the cameras. And Gretchen says, well, he doesn't want to show up and have everyone say that he always wants to be in front of the cameras, so he's not here. Katie says, really? Doesn't he want to show up to clear his name? And Gretchen says, yes, he does, but he can do that in a lot of different ways. Matt says, listen, I've got an issue with Slade because he's not here, and that's why I came. And Gretchen says, well, then you should call him. And then Jenn pipes up and she says, and Ryan would be happy to talk to you anytime. And Katie says, well, then why hasn't he reached out? And Jenn says, why haven't you guys reached out to him? It goes both ways, you know. You're not the victim here, Katie. I'm in the same seat as you. And Katie says, you're in the same seat as me, Jenn, so I fucked with your paycheck and your livelihood? Is that what happened? Imagine if I had done that to you. And Jenn looks completely shell-shocked. And Katie goes, Jenn, I had to stop filming. And if you would have just stuck up for me, even in the littlest of way, do you really think that this would have happened? And Jenn, looking completely gobsmacked, says, oh, I fucked with your paycheck? Hold on. I fucked with your paycheck? And Katie says, yes. And everybody's going, oh my God. Oh my God. Emily says, it had nothing to do with us. And honestly, she was right because it wasn't about the us. It wasn't about the cumulative us. Katie didn't need to be friends with the us, with all of them. She just needed one ally in her corner. And while everyone is saying, this is so ridiculous, Katie goes, so you're telling me that I didn't have conversations with producers who were telling me that if I was able to stay even just a little bit aligned with you, that I would have been able to continue filming? And Jenn goes, wait, what? And honestly, I just don't understand what's so hard to understand, because I can completely believe what Katie's saying. If Katie still had someone in her corner, then she could have kept filming, because she would have had someone to continue filming with. The story would have had a place to evolve. But if someone's alone out on an island, the scene quickly becomes boring. Jenn says, I wasn't there to be in alignment with you, Katie. I was there to be your friend. And Katie says, right, exactly. And a real friend would have called me that night. She said, I defended you, Katie. I always defended you. And Katie says, no, you didn't. I watched. And she said, there was one time, just one time. And I said to you at coffee, Katie, it's getting messy around you. She said, I looked at you and said, you need to decide if you want to be in this friend group. And by the way, I'm also a person in this friendship. And I lost you, someone that I loved, someone that I really cared about. So don't tell me that I fucked with your paycheck. And that was it, you guys. Part 2 of the Orange County reunion. And I have to say, that now that we know, okay, so we know, right? We're not talking about BravoCon. We're about to talk about BravoCon. But at BravoCon, everybody knows now that Vicki was given her orange back. So we all know that Vicki's going to be back for the big season 20. But now the question is, what's going to happen with Katie? Honestly, I want them to keep this exact cast and just, if they're going to add Vicki, but don't add anybody else. I like this cast exactly as it is. I just really honestly like this whole dynamic that's happening right now with this group of girls. I think it's an interesting one. I think sometimes, they're really easy and they fall along, certain lines. But this one is messy and it's complicated, and I kind of like that. On another note, I wanted to share something with you guys because it matters. I have Sjogren's disease and lupus. So hydration and my health go hand in hand. And for me, choosing the cleanest, healthiest water isn't optional. It's vital, which is exactly why I started using Epic water filters. They remove the things that don't belong in our bodies, the PFAs, the chlorine, the microplastics, all the other junk, all while keeping the minerals that your body actually needs. And it tastes the way water is supposed to taste. Crisp, fresh, and pure. You've put your body through enough. Fuel it with something that actually loves you back. Choose clean, choose better, choose Epic. And use my link below for 15% off your order with the code Jenerally15. Okay, you guys, now we are going to talk about my BravoCon trip, but I have to tell you that I took a bathroom break just a second ago, and when I went to get up from the chair, you guys, I often, because I'm such a shorty, sit on my legs so that I can be tall enough. Anyway, I went to get up, you guys, and my feet were so deathly asleep, but I was just going to push through. And I went to step on my left foot and it just completely went out from under me. Oh my God. And I heard something and the pain in my foot, if there's like one of those instant goose eggs on the top of your foot, I pray to God, this is just going to be it's so bad. This is horrible, you guys. This is so it's huge. I mean, oh my God, it's horrible. And it hurts so bad. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm supposed to be meeting my girlfriend for dinner, and I'm not sure that's going to be happening. I can't even speak. Oh my God. Oh, it hurts so bad. Horrible. Okay, let me just try to focus here. Okay, you guys, BravoCon. I'm just gonna push through this. I pray to God that this isn't broken. If I broke anything, it's those little baby bones on the top. It's so tender. Oh my God, it hurts so much just throbbing, you guys. So also I don't think that's normal. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. Okay, let's talk BravoCon. So you guys, a few weeks ago, you guys, when I decided I was going to go to BravoCon, I don't even know how I knew that this was happening. My phone was probably listening to me talk about BravoCon. And so, the way it just tees up advertisements for you. But it showed me that Joey Gorga was going to be doing his comedy show. while BravoCon was happening. So I went and I bought some tickets, right? And I had chatted a bit with Melissa about it, and she told me she wasn't sure what night she was going to be able to make it. And I said, no problem, it doesn't matter. I still want to see the show. And Melissa said, I think I'm going to be there Saturday, but I'm not completely sure. And so, it was a whatever. I still wanted to see the show. So I went ahead and I bought 2 tickets for Saturday night for Joey Gorga's show at the Jimmy Kimmel Theater. And so whatever, that was going to be my plan for Saturday night. Me and Mike were going to go and see that show. So then it is Thursday. It is time for me to leave. I finished doing that last pod and I took out of here and I got to the airport and I was so proud of myself, you guys. I was not rushed. I did not forget my ID. Everything was going smoothly, which does not always happen. So for me, it was off to a good start. And I wasn't traveling with Mike. I was traveling alone because Mike was already in Vegas for work. So that was great. I was traveling there. He was already there. And just before my flight was about to board, I went to the bathroom just real quick, because nobody really wants to use those airport potties. So I go to the bathroom real quick. And as I come back and I go to check to see, how far, because they had already sent the first A row through. And so I was just checking to see where I should stand. And then literally I turn around and bump into Erica Jane, who I know from the salon, right? And only know from the salon. I don't know Erica from the Bravo world. I know her from 901. She's been a 901 girl for years. So I lift up my shades and I say, Erica, hey, it's Jenn from the salon. And she goes, oh, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing on this flight? And I said, I'm going to BravoCon. And honestly, with all the times that Erica has been in, I never talk about Bravo. I never talk about Generally Speaking. When Heather is in, I don't talk about Generally Speaking. I really try to keep those two lanes of my life separate. The salon is a sacred place, and I never want anyone to feel like I'm trying to scoop them at a sacred place. And in all reality, I'm not even a scooper. I'm not here to scoop. I'm more here to analyze and dissect. You can save the scooping for everybody else. I'm good. But at this point, Erica's asking me, so I have to tell her, right? So I tell her about Generally Speaking, and she says, oh my God, this is your first time? And I said, yeah. She said, you are going to have the best time. She asked me what my itinerary was. I told her I was planning on meeting Flo, who does Heather Dubrow's hair, and Erica knows Flo. And she says, oh my God, I love Flo. You two are going to have the best time. So that was it. Then it was time to board, and Erica boarded, I boarded. It was a quick 36-minute flight. I was sitting next to the cutest man who was traveling for his granddaughter's wedding, and he told me all about his granddaughter. It was so sweet. But yeah, then we got off and we went down, and Erica and I were standing right there while we were waiting for our luggage, which took forever. We started talking about Nikki, our beloved Nikki that we both love so much. And then it started, you guys, Erica, and it was off the chains. I mean, Erica got rushed by a bunch of girls who basically threw their autograph books out at her. And I felt like I was at Disneyland. When all the little kids go around and they get all the characters' signature, that's what this felt like. Literally, I heard a couple of them say, that's my first signature. But yeah, they were this was Thursday, the day before the official start. So everybody was fully amped. So anyway, that was it. I said goodbye to Erica. She went her way. I went mine. And Mike picked me up. We headed back to the hotel, got settled in. I was starving, so we went to eat. And I was so tired on Thursday night, you guys, because I had been up at the butt crack of dawn. I mean, I was up at 4 o'clock that morning getting ready to travel. I had to shoot the pod that morning. So there was just a lot to do. And I was so pooped by the end of the night. So I'm in bed editing that last pod, and I get a text from Flo that says, where are you? And Flo was over at the Four Seasons because that's where all of the Bravo talent except Teresa was staying. And so that downstairs bar turned into the real party. So Flo was texting me, where are you? And I'm just like, oh, sorry, I am already in bed. I just could not rally that first night. Friday, Mike and I did a little gambling. We did a little eating. And then on Friday evening, I had to go to this special TikTok event where I met some amazing creators that I had so much fun with. They both said, oh, we're going back to the Four Seasons. And I said, that's hilarious because that's where Mike and I were planning to go. And so we all kind of migrated over to the Four Seasons together. And just had the best time there. But this was the night that the Bravos were taking place. So we were actually just getting there as all of the Bravo talent was leaving to the Bravos. But we stayed downstairs and there were a bunch of other people there. Nick Viall was there. There were just a bunch of other people, other social media creators. It was a very lively environment. And then suddenly Alexis Bellino comes screaming into the bar. And then I text Flo and I'm like, where are you? Get over here. And then eventually Flo got there. And that's when the party really started. And we had so much fun. And we were just about to walk outside just to go hang out by the fire when I saw this woman who looked exactly like Giselle Bryant. Exactly like Giselle Bryant. Except it wasn't Giselle Bryant, but it looked just like Giselle Bryant. And Mike said to me, that person's got to be related to Giselle. And I said, absolutely has to be. And so then it was hilarious. So we then went out by the fire pit and we were hanging out there having the very best time. And as we walk back in, now it's like 1 o'clock at this point. You guys are 12:30 probably. And I am exhausted again because Vegas takes a lot out of you. There's a lot of walking. The sensory overload is just constant. And I mean, you are just going in Vegas. It's a high energy atmosphere no matter what you're doing. So at this point, I'm ready to leave. And when we walk back in from the fire pit that's outside, back in through the bar, now they put up this huge partition. So like nobody that's at the doors of the Four Seasons can see what's happening in the bar. Normally you'd be able to, just from the glass door, you could see into the bar, but now there is like a full wall partition. But as we're walking back through the bar, sitting next to that woman that looked exactly like Giselle Bryant was the real Giselle Bryant. And now I don't know Giselle's family history, but I'm pretty sure she has a twin. If not, her and her sister just look exactly alike. So we walked by Giselle, who I thought looked beautiful. My Mike couldn't believe how much makeup she had on, but I'm sure she was just on stage. So of course it's different than everyday makeup. But then just as we were getting we had to walk around that wall that they had put up. So it's like a blind turn, right? Because the wall is you can't see through it. So we go to turn this wall and then all of a sudden it's, and you know who that is? Sutton. She like bumped right into me and off me and stared me right in the eyes. And I'm like, oh, hello, Sutton. I mean, we were eye to eye, nose to nose, lips to lips. Honestly, I could have kissed her. I should have kissed her. That was probably the closest she's come to being kissed in a long time. That's wrong. I don't know if that's true. I shouldn't say that. For all I know, she got downtown Julie Brown with the doorman that night. I don't know. Anyway, so Mike and I go back to our hotel and now it's Saturday. And again, we just spent our day just bopping around doing whatever we were doing. And then it came time oh, I'm sorry. No, that's not true. I have to tell you, I was much more strategic on Saturday because I knew Joey Gorga's show, you guys, that I was going to on Saturday night did not start until 11:30 p.m. Now, for the love of God, I don't stay up until 11:30 p.m. I'm definitely not going to an event that begins at 11:30 p.m. I mean, how is that even possible? I can't even just the thought of it was so overwhelming. So Mike and I went to breakfast that morning and I said, I'm having 2 mimosas, right? Because I know that mimosas for me are like instant sleep. It's like taking two NyQuil for me. So I had 2 mimosas and we went back to the room. We were going to have a relaxing day. And I took a 3-hour nap, you guys. I didn't wake up until 2:30. Whatever time we got back, add 3 hours to that, I woke up at 2:30, which was perfect, right? Because then I got to do whatever I needed to do. I caught up on a little work. And then I started getting ready at like 5 o'clock. And I fully felt fresh and awake. It was the perfect plan. So we get ready, you guys. We go to dinner. We try and buy some time before the end of dinner and the beginning of the show, which, let me remind you, once again, begins at 11:30. I mean, insane. Now, mind you, Mike has his own work car in Vegas, so we have our own wheels, so it's not like we're in an Uber, right? So now we are going to the Link, right? Because that's where this comedy show is going to be. This is where the Jimmy Kimmel Theater is, at the Link. So my Mike thinks that he knows exactly where it is. And mind you, it is raining. It is storming Norman in Las Vegas. I mean, that day, it was crazy time. We're talking torrential downpours the entire day. So Mike parks where he says that we need to be. Oh, it's just right there. And we get out and we're walking, and suddenly I start feeling like he doesn't know where he's going. Do you know where you're going? And it's raining, you guys. It's raining. Now, granted, when we left, there was a break in the weather, but the weather has begun yet again. And truthfully, I didn't have a hood. I didn't have an umbrella. I didn't have anything but like a piece of cardboard, a very small piece of cardboard. And I had spent more than 20 minutes getting ready for this evening, which for me is a lot. I mean, if I'm investing that much time getting ready, that's how I want to show up, right? But no, because we are outside, you guys, traipsing through the rain, and not just a light shower. We are talking the big drops, the really big drops. And then then he asks somebody, where's this? Oh, it's that way. So we turn around and start trekking in that direction. And then boop, all of a sudden we both totally dip and fall into a puddle that was at least 8 inches. I swear to you guys, water up past our ankles, both of us. And I am just thinking that I just, at this point, I can't even believe I can't believe this is happening, right? And not only is this happening, but at this point, I'm still not even sure we're going in the right freaking direction. And at this point, it's like 11:20, you guys. So you think that you have all this time. Shit, we don't need to be there till 11:30. But lo and behold, it's 11:20 and we're lost in the dark in the pouring wet rain, right? So Mike comes along, someone else. And I said, you better double check. And so he asks, hey, where's this? Guess where? The other direction, the direction we were originally going. So we turn around yet again. And I'm really just trying to just laugh my way through this because we don't want to ruin the night, right? We don't want to start a fight. It's already 11:30. It's been a long day. We've been looking forward to this. We don't want to get sassy. So we walk, very careful to avoid another puddle. Not that it would matter because our feet are already soaking wet. And my hair is hanging in my face. Not Mike's, of course, because he has a natural curl to his. So it just gave him a nice little zhuzh. Anyway, we get there and you have to go up these steps to get to the upper level, right? Where the comedy is. So we're there on these stairs for quite a while, right? There was only one person at the top taking tickets and seating people. And then suddenly, like a fighter going to the ring, up runs Joey Gorga. And he comes up and everybody's cheering for him. And then right after that came Melissa, right? And at this point, I'm not even really paying attention to what's happening around me. I'm still just stuck on how soggy my shoes are. And just as someone starts to take us down to our seats, I see someone else sit Melissa's family right behind us. And now Melissa, for her part, is over in the aisle taking pictures and just being so sweet with everyone, right? And I'm sitting at this table with Mike. Across from me, there's 2 people that we don't know sitting right behind us, and then it was Melissa's family. So Mike and I are just sitting there chatting, and now mind you, this is all happening right in the midst of this whole reconciliation, which wasn't actually technically happening when I bought these tickets. Not that it would have mattered, but this reconciliation is happening. And on the topic of the reconciliation, I would just like to say this. I know there are people, because I commented on Melissa's post, and I said, I love to see this. And I have to tell you, I fully stand behind that. I had a lot of people coming through saying, oh, really, Jen, you're happy to see this? And I know a lot of people might assume that I'm not happy to see that, but they would be completely wrong. Because truthfully, I've never wanted anything but for this family to get along and be in harmony. That's exactly what always upset me about Teresa so much, was the fact that she didn't appreciate what an incredible brother and family that she had right there with Joe and Melissa and their kids. And you know, Generally Speaking is the podcast that bridges the worlds between pop culture and personal development. And forgiving people and moving forward is very much a part of personal development, right? You don't personally develop if you decide that you're going to stay stuck somewhere and stuck in the bitterness and the resentment and the fear of, oh, what might happen if I let this person back in my life? No, you have to move in faith, right? And you have to make an effort. And Melissa and Joe are completely right in the fact that you do have to show your kids. As a parent, no parent ever wants to think of their kids as estranged or hating each other or being bitter and resentful and talking shit about each other. And so you do need to model a better way. And I think that Melissa and Joe should be applauded for the fact that they are taking this step with Teresa. I mean, they will know whether or not it's authentic and true as they start to move through it. And you have to trust that they'll know how to move when and if that happens. But you have to give it a chance. You can't just say no just because of the past. And for all of you that love Joey Gorga so much, like I thought it was so telling what Melissa said, the relief on her husband's face when he came home after that first meeting with his sister. Honestly, it chokes me up because I know how healing that must have been for him, because I think that Joe Gorga has been walking around with a huge gaping wound since this fallout happened. I mean, you think he doesn't love his sister? Of course he does. And he loves those nieces of his so much. So even though he's been putting on a brave face and trudging through it because he didn't, think that there was a better option at the time, that doesn't mean that that's what he wants the rest of his future to look like. So yeah, the bottom line is I am fully supportive of it. And I'm so happy for those cousins. And I will tell you, I can guarantee you that Teresa's daughters feel so good knowing that they have their Uncle Joe and their Aunt Melissa that they can now go to. Everyone wants to be connected to both sides of their family. And Joe is all that Teresa has. So when they lose Joe, they are losing a lot. Does that mean that we believe everything that comes out of Teresa's mouth just because she says it? No. I mean, Teresa's going to have to walk the walk. And if she doesn't, they'll see it. And however they need to move, they will. Okay, but so now back to my story. So now Melissa's done taking pictures. She goes and she sits back with her family. And Mike and I are still just chatting about whatever. And then all of a sudden I get a tap on my right shoulder and I hear, "Are you Jenn?" And I looked over my shoulder and it's Melissa. And she says, "Hi, I'm so glad you're here." She goes, "It was my mom that recognized you. My mom saw you." And I turned around and I said, "Where is she?" And I looked over my shoulder and there was Donna Marco, so sweet, waving hi. And so I got up and I went over and I gave Donna a big hug. And I met her best friend, Patty, who was the sweetest angel. And then I went over and I said hello to Melissa's two sisters, who honestly just could not have been sweeter. And then Melissa says to me, "Hey, so guess what? His family might actually show up." And I go, "You're kidding me." She goes, "No." She goes, "I don't know if they're really going to come." She goes, "But they might show up." And I go, "Oh, Jesus, well, that'll be interesting." And I go back to the chair and I said, "Melissa just told me that Joe's family might be coming." And Mike goes, "You're kidding me." Anyway, then Joey Gorga takes the stage, you guys. And I have to tell you, Joe Gorga and his show exceeded all of my expectations. And I mean, not just a little good, you guys, but really hilarious. And you can tell that he's really worked on this show. It's one thing to get up there and just babble on, but his show was really cohesive and it had great flow. I'm telling you guys, Joe Gorga was hilarious. You would think maybe that he would just get up there and just fuck about because he's Joey Gorga and that you were supposed to think he's funny just because that's who he was. But no, I'm telling you, it was funny. It was well crafted. The timing was good. He was good. I mean, it was genuinely so much better than I anticipated it being. It was worth the 11:30 start, you guys. I have to say, it really was. It was that good. And then, get this, I would say we are 5 minutes into the show and Joe's telling a story and he's on stage and he's doing his thing. And then you hear somebody go, "Your son about, we love you, Joe." And Joe goes, "Yeah, who's that?" And you could tell he was serious. He couldn't tell who it was at all. And then I look over and I'm like, "Who is that?" And he goes, "Hey, Louie! Louie's here, everybody! Louie and Teresa and Gia are here, everybody!" Louie and Teresa and Gia are now in this small little comedy club, you guys. Teresa, Louie, Gia, Joe, Melissa, me. I turn around and look at Melissa. I'm like, "Oh my God." I look at Mike. I'm like, "Here we go." And Joe worked them into the show a few times. He'd be telling a story. That was another thing about Joe. He was able to just think on the fly like that, right? Because they're not usually a part of his show, but he suddenly started incorporating them into it. And it was sweet. In his own little way, he kind of addressed Teresa and the situation and about how he's really happy to have them in his life once again. And then he called her up, you guys, and she came up. And I'm not even sure if I've still processed it. This was a small club, you guys. This is a small club. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this reunion has just happened. And I'm here like front and center for the whole thing now. I'm sitting there watching this. He invites Teresa up on stage and she comes up and she said, hey, he's funny. I've never really I haven't really been to, yeah, you're funny. Yeah, he's funny. You know, everybody always tells me that I'm funny. Yeah, but am I funny? I don't know. She says it again. Everybody always tells me I'm so funny, but am I funny? I don't know. I mean, honestly, she just talked herself in circles. I couldn't believe it, you guys. And here's the other thing. Just before we went to the show, you guys, I did this huge update on my phone, which I normally know how to work, you know, like beautifully. I can work my phone with my eyes shut. But I go to take a video, you guys, and each time I hit video, the goddamn flash goes up. And so I shoved it underneath my legs. So I have these two videos that I tried to take of Teresa and Joe up on the stage, but the flash kept popping up so I could shove it underneath my legs because I didn't want to cause a scene. But I have pictures, you guys. I do have pictures of him and her on stage together. She said a lot. She said a lot that I'm not remembering right now. And Mike's not here or else I'd ask him. But yeah, she went on and on. And then she did say, I do remember this part. She goes, and for anyone that doesn't think this is real, fuck you. And I'm thinking, okay, well, looks like we're off to a great start. So Teresa and Joe are on stage. Louie and Gia are right here. Melissa and her family and me and Mike are right here. And although Louie may have unblocked them, he still has me blocked. So then the show ended, and when I stepped back to say goodbye to Melissa's family, Donna's best friend Patty asked if she could take a picture with me and Donna. So I sat down with Donna, we took a picture, and then we had another little chat. And as we're chatting, a line starts forming over with Teresa and Louie. Louie, who was wearing one of those black t-shirts with the rhinestone skull on it. I mean, just so expected. Anyway, those two start a huge photo op before Joey Gorga has even come out to meet the people in his audience. And at this point, you guys, it's like 1:15, well past my bedtime. So I look at Mike and I say, let's just go. Because honestly, the last thing I wanted was to make a scene. But I could not believe it, you guys. Can you believe back when I bought those tickets and I was debating on what night to go, did I ever think that I was going to be at Joey Gorga's comedy show with Teresa and Louie, you guys? So hilarious. But anyway, I just have to say it again. Joey Gorga's comedy show is so worth seeing. So if by chance you get an opportunity, make sure that you go. You will not be disappointed. I promise you that. I can't guarantee you that Teresa, Louie, and Gia will be there, but I can promise you that if they are there, Louie will make sure you know about it. All right, everybody, that about does it for this episode of Generally Speaking. Thank you so much for being here. If you've been watching us on YouTube, please make sure you reach out and smash that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. If you've been listening on your favorite streaming platform, please make sure you give us a follow, leave us a 5-star rating. We would love that. If you'd like to collaborate or have a question you'd like answered on the pod, you can reach me at jennifer@jennifersnook.com. And if you'd like to get your hands on some of this adorable Generally Speaking merch or our memberships, you guys, make sure you check out www.jennifersnook.com. All right, everybody, I have loved spending this time with you. Thank you so much for being here. And until we're together again, everybody, stay rooted in love. We'll see you next time.